Before the lights come on, before the guards begin their rounds, before the first tray of cold oatmeal slides under a steel door, the prison is already awake. America's maximum security facilities don't sleep. They only wait. Deep inside these concrete fortresses sit the country's most violent offenders. Men whose names appear on paperwork red-tagged, with words like murder, kidnapping, carjacking, terroristic assault, gang affiliation, life without parole. This is the population the public rarely sees. The population the justice system fears losing control of. And this is where our story begins, not at the gates, but at the last door. The one that locks shut behind you with a metallic thud that feels like a verdict. When you walk into a max unit, the first thing you notice isn't the noise. It's the silence. A heavy, vibrating, calculated silence. The kind predators use when they're studying something new. The inmates are already awake, watching, not moving, just listening. Every eye trained on every stranger, every breath measured. Because here, attention is a form of currency. And so is fear. In dorm C block, a long hallway splits into two tiers, lined with cells no bigger than walk-in closets. Inside them are men who haven't touched real sunlight in years. Some pace slowly, counting tiles. Some sit cross-legged, staring at the wall. Others sleep with one foot on the ground, a habit learned from surviving communal dorms, where attacks often came at night. At 6 a.m., the doors don't open. There is no morning bell. Instead, the prison wakes through vibration, boots on metal grates, radios buzzing, cuffs clinking against belts. This isn't a routine. It's a warning system. The guards step into the tier, 3 officers for nearly 60 violent offenders. They try to walk with confidence, but every one of them knows the truth the policies never admit. They are outnumbered, always, and the inmates know it too. A lifer named Dawson, 6'4", tattooed from jaw to wrist, leans against the bars of his cell and murmurs to no one. They need us to behave more than we need them alive. It isn't a threat, it's arithmetic. And in maximum security, math is survival. When breakfast comes, it's not eaten in a cafeteria. There are no benches, no windows, no chatter. Trays slide through slots. Plastic spoons. Food that tastes like punishment. Cold grits, watery eggs, bread dry enough to crumble. Some inmates eat everything. They need the calories for the hours ahead. Others save pieces of bread, hiding them in state-issued cups to bribe, bargain, or simply have something for later. In here, even crumbs have value. By mid-morning, the prison reveals its rhythm. 23 hours locked down, 1 hour out. Some call it discipline. Psychologists call it deterioration. That single hour rec time is the only moment inmates step outside the cage. But outside doesn't mean freedom. It means a slightly larger cage, open to the sky but enclosed by razor wire curling like metal thorns. The sun hits the yard unevenly, slicing the concrete into harsh cold and burning heat. Here, gangs move like organized militaries. The Aryan Brotherhood occupies the north corner. The Bloods walk laps along the left wall. The Pazes stretch by the far fence. Everyone has territory. Everyone has a code. New inmates learn quickly. Choose a side or become someone's property. For the officers, rec time is the most dangerous hour of the day. 2 guards posted above with rifles, a handful on the ground. No one relaxes. No one looks away. Not even for a second. Because in this world, violence isn't a possibility. It's a schedule. Contraband deals happen inside folded sleeves. Messages pass in quick hand gestures. A fight breaks out in under 3 seconds, a stabbing in under 5. Today, things stay calm. Only one fist fight. Only one inmate dragged from the yard, blood dripping down his chin. No deaths. In here, that qualifies as peace. When the inmates return to their cells, the prison becomes quiet again, but not safe. The hour of freedom amplifies everything. Resentment, adrenaline, boredom, rage. Men slam fists into walls. Others whisper threats through vents. Some sit in perfect stillness, holding onto sanity like a thread pulled tight. This is what the outside world doesn't understand. In maximum security prisons, punishment isn't a sentence. The punishment is the environment. Here, time is an enemy. Space is a weapon. People become either predators or prey. And for the guards, survival depends on one fragile truth. As long as the inmates believe they have something left to lose, the prison holds. The moment they don't, the entire system collapses. If Chapter 1 showed you the architecture of fear, Chapter 2 takes you into the bloodstream of the prison. The networks, the codes, the unspoken alliances that determine who lives, who breaks, and who disappears into the quiet corners of the system. Maximum security facilities don't simply house violent offenders. They organize them. This organization isn't official. It isn't on blueprints or in policy manuals. It exists in whispers, nods, debts, and scars. And once you understand it, you understand why survival here is not instinct. It's strategy, the invisible map of power. On paper, every inmate is just a number. In reality, every inmate belongs to a structure, sometimes willingly, often by force. In max units, power divides itself into four main ecosystems. Major gangs, Aryan Brotherhood, Bloods, Crips, MS-13 Paces. Regional crews, local sets, neighborhood factions. Independents, rare, vulnerable, always watched. A-lifers, the true landlords of the tier. The guards know the blueprint, but they don't control it. The prison administration tries to suppress it, but the system evolves faster than policy. A lieutenant who has worked 17 years in high-security units explains it bluntly. Prisons run on two governments, ours and theirs. Guess which one has more influence minute to minute? Gangs aren't just violence machines. They are governments with borders, rules, taxes, and enforcement. Every cell block has a structure. Shot caller, enforcers, soldiers, lookouts, runners. Deals for protection, favors, commissary trades, drug debts, tattoo trades, and contraband all run through this system. One inmate, a former enforcer for a violent crew, told us, "You don't pick a gang inside prison. Prison picks your gang for you. If you're white, you go with whites. If you're Latino, you go with Latinos. If you're black, you go with the dominant set in your block. If you refuse, you're a target by dinner." How violence actually works back here. Violence in prison is not random. It is scheduled, negotiated, and sometimes approved like a business transaction. A stabbing doesn't begin with a knife. It begins with a vote. A debt doesn't become a beating. It becomes a warning first. A beating doesn't become a murder. It becomes a message. One officer who trains new recruits says, "If you see calm inmates whispering, you should be scared. If you see them arguing loud, you're probably safe." Because in maximum security, noise is emotion. Silence is intent. The average stabbing lasts under 9 seconds. Most involve a weapon made from melted toothbrushes, metal bed frame pieces, AC vent shards, mop handles sharpened against concrete, plastic food trays baked and snapped into blades. Weapons pass hand to hand so quickly that officers rarely find the right one in time. And when a hit is ordered, the target usually knows. You feel it long before it happens. One man tells us, "The way people stop looking at you, the way your bunkmate sleeps with his shoes on." In prison, shoes mean readiness. Bare feet mean vulnerability. The smallest symbols matter. The price of disrespect. The outside world imagines that stabbings come from rage. Inside, stabbings usually come from protocol. A wrong glance. A bump shoulder. A joke taken the wrong way. Failing to pay a $2 ramen debt. Speaking to the wrong group at the wrong time. Refusing to move during rec. Using someone else's seat in the day room. Inmates don't fear consequences. They fear appearing weak. One ex-soldier for a prison gang described it. You lose respect once, you never get it back. And if you never get it back, you're dead. He wasn't exaggerating, because the prison doesn't just punish weakness. It recycles it. Weakness becomes currency for extortion. Weakness becomes leverage for manipulation. Weakness becomes the reason you're tested every day until you break or become something harder. But in this world, becoming harder means losing parts of yourself the system will never give back. The guards' version of hell. To understand this world, you also have to understand the guards. The ones who walk into the tier alone, who control nothing but noise, who must stand inches from men serving life sentences who have no incentive to obey. Contrary to public belief, most guards in high-security prisons are not brutal monsters. Most are exhausted human beings navigating a battlefield with low pay, understaffing, gang threats, contraband pressure, and constant fear. One officer tells us, "You walk the tiers alone. If something goes bad, backup might be 30 seconds away." 30 seconds is a lifetime behind bars. Every day, guards face feces thrown on them, boiling water attacks, razor blade traps, extortion attempts, taunts about their wives, families, children, threats of retaliation outside the prison. Some officers burn out after a year. Some last weeks. Those who stay learn rules the academy never teaches. Never turn your back fully. Never let inmates see your fear. Never show favoritism. Never owe anyone anything. And never, ever walk into a blind corner alone. Because the worst thing a guard can become in maximum security is predictable. The code no one admits. By the end of Chapter 2, one truth becomes inescapable. Prison is not chaos. Prison is organized danger. Every inmate knows the code. Every guard knows the risk. Every day is a negotiation between what could happen and what everyone is desperately trying to prevent. This is where survival is a language, where silence is strategy, where trust is a vulnerability, where fear is the most valuable currency. And this world, this machine of power, violence, structure, and silence, sets the stage for what comes next. The question not of how they survive, but what survival turns them into. Prison documentaries usually end at the gates, with a narrator saying something about rehabilitation, punishment, or reform. But inside America's highest security prisons, those words don't mean much. Because the real truth, the part no one wants to say out loud, is that survival changes the human mind, and once that change takes hold, it rarely reverses. This chapter isn't about crime. It's not about guilt or innocence. It's about what happens when a person is placed in an environment designed for violence, ruled by gangs, and controlled by fear 24 hours a day. This is the final transformation, the point at which a human being becomes something the outside world will never fully understand again. The slow disappearance of a person. By year 3 inside a maximum security prison, most inmates undergo a psychological shift that psychologists call institutional flattening. Emotion drains from the face. The voice becomes monotone. The eyes stop reacting. A former lieutenant puts it simply, you can watch a man disappear without ever dying. It begins in routines. Wake up to steel doors. Eat the same food. Follow the same orders. Repeat the same pattern for years, sometimes decades. Then comes the social change. Friends fade. Family stops visiting. Letters slow down. Birthdays pass unnoticed. One inmate we interviewed, Leon, serving 55 years, said, "My world became 6 inches around my head." Isolation doesn't just confine the body. It corrodes the identity. Solitary confinement, the deep end. For the worst offenders and anyone who crosses the wrong line, punishment escalates to a place inmates call the box. Officially, administrative segregation. Unofficially, psychological freefall. A steel cell the width of 2 arm spans. Lights that never turn off. Food passed through a slot. 23 hours of stillness. 1 hour in a fenced yard that looks more like an empty dog kennel. Guards say the screams come at night. Inmates pounding on metal. Voices unraveling. One guard, 12 years on the job, tells us, "You don't see a man go crazy. You hear it. First in the footsteps. Then in the laughter. Then in the silence." Doctors estimate that 1/3 of inmates in solitary develop hallucinations. Some talk to walls. Some talk to themselves. Some stop talking entirely. A former inmate described his mind turning into a hallway with no doors. Thoughts echoing, looping, and tearing in circles. Solitary confinement isn't discipline. It's damage. Violence as a social currency. Inside maximum security prisons, violence functions like a language. A way to negotiate. A way to send a message. A way to survive. Every inmate learns the vocabulary quickly. A stare that lasts too long equals disrespect. Disrespect equals confrontation. Confrontation equals blades. There are no fists in maximum security. Only weapons, sharpened metal, melted plastic, razors smuggled into toothbrushes. A veteran guard explains it cleanly. You're either capable of violence, or you're a victim of it. That's why the first lesson for new inmates isn't about rules. It's about reputation. A lifer sits down with us and says, "You fight on day one. Don't matter if you lose. What matters is someone else sees you bleed and stand back up." This is prison logic, primal, brutal, consistent. And yet, somehow, inside these walls, it makes perfect sense. The economy of desperation. Every prison develops its own economy. Not the kind with dollars, the kind with leverage. Cigarettes, ramen packs, soap, phone access, extra blankets, medication, favors. And then there's the darker economy, drugs, weapons, and protection. Guards confiscate contraband every week, yet it always reappears. Because corruption isn't an accident, it's a side effect of pressure. A guard earning $16 to $18 an hour stands beside an inmate who can offer $800 for one delivery. A corrupt guard doesn't always start corrupt. Sometimes they simply fold. One former officer admits, "The prison had rules, but the economy had better ones." In a world where everything has value, survival becomes expensive. The guards who are trapped too. People assume correctional officers hold power. Inside maximum security, that's rarely true. Guards are often outnumbered 40 to 1. They walk tiers knowing every face belongs to someone with a life sentence. Someone with nothing to lose. Many officers develop PTSD without ever seeing combat. Some drink. Some quit. Some detach emotionally. One sergeant told us, "We call it the third shift, the one where you lay in bed and the prison still runs in your head." They carry the violence home. They carry the screams home. They carry the fear home. Prison breaks people on both sides of the bars. The ones who try to better themselves. Not every inmate gives in to destruction. Some lift weights to stay sane. Others study law, hoping to appeal their cases. Some mentor younger inmates so they don't fall deeper. A few discover faith. A 62-year-old inmate told us, "I've spent more time in prison than I have alive, but I found parts of myself in here I never knew existed." Yet the system makes change difficult. Mental health care is minimal. Educational programs are outdated or understaffed. Therapy is rare. Rehab is inconsistent. And hope is fragile. Even those who try to rebuild themselves are swimming against a tide made of concrete and time. Release, the most dangerous day. When the doors finally open and an inmate walks out, the world often expects them to be better. But the truth is harsh. A man shaped by survival rules cannot instantly switch to society's rules. If he's been institutionalized, freedom feels like sensory overload. Colors too bright, voices too loud, space too open, choices too overwhelming. Many reoffend within months, not always from malice, but from disorientation. A counselor explains, "We free them physically, but their mind is still doing time." Some prisoners don't re-enter society. They escape it. They return to the one environment they know how to navigate. What America hides. At the end of this journey, one truth stands above the rest. Prison doesn't just punish crime. It creates consequences that last generations. Inside these walls, violence becomes currency. Fear becomes normal. Identity dissolves. Humanity is optional. Survival is everything. Some inmates become predators. Some become victims. Some become ghosts. But all of them, without exception, are changed. Maximum security prisons were built to contain the worst of the worst. But what America hides from the world is this. These prisons are machines. And everything that goes into them, people, guards, families, hope, comes out altered, damaged, or erased. The dark side of prison doesn't end at the gate. It lives in every person who has walked behind those bars and survived long enough to walk back out.